Hi everyone, this is me, Elda with the Selling Sunshine Realty Group with White Picket Realty. I am here with Debbie today. We're here to talk about something very important that we always lack. We tend to have a tendency of not thinking of our financials, which is very, very important. As a real estate professional and as an entrepreneur, you should know where your money's coming from. But let's talk a little bit to Debbie. Debbie, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, most definitely. Please tell me who you are. Tell me what you do.
My name is Debbie Filipovitch, and people don't worry about the last name. It's mostly Debbie. I've been doing accounting at some level since I was 18, 40 years. And I always worked for CPA firms. I had really great mentors. They taught me everything from the financials to taxes to consulting. I was a young kid in my 20s. They took me out and I visited with many different types of businesses. And this was out in California for quite some time. And then I moved back here and I went to work for a big CPA firm. And then I had my son in 2000. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to work that hard for somebody else. I started my own business and I've been doing that since 2000. My first client was a real estate developer. It really started that niche of businesses based on real estate. And I got in and did everything. Matter of fact, on one of his jobs, I was a GM for a little bit because his GM walked off. And I learned that you don't cut trusses when you're building a building. But I've been, our firm has done many different iterations, but now there's 10 of us right now. I have 4 partners. We work on bookkeeping mostly with payroll, sales tax. We also do like loan packaging. We hug people when they're having a bad time. And we work with CPAs for tax prep and your insurance people and whoever. We're really a client's back office. When you feel like when you're on your own, you're not, because you have us.
Right.
And we get your financials done for you. And I absolutely love what I do. People are like, isn't bookkeeping boring? No. I'm at Carlos Correa because I did bookkeeping. I've been to a couple different countries because of my bookkeeping. My dad told me, you're going to be an accountant, you're never going to travel. I have. It's fun. It's fun. I have great clients. I have great partners. It's a lot of fun. And then I love the numbers. I love helping people understand, what's going on with their business and just seeing things.
I don't know regarding financials. Maybe it's my dyslexia that makes me spend a lot of money because I can't see numbers. Anyway, I think I need services like yours. But tell me about your name. So your name is Amorcil.
Isn't it beautiful? With the accent, I wish. I would do that. I would say it like Amorcil. It's Amorcil, very, and it is amortize and reconcile put together. And my friend and I came up with it over wine on her back porch because I wanted a name that was unique, so we could go nationwide.
Awesome. Tell me about your company. You are located here in Cyprus, but you work from everywhere. Of course, everything is mostly virtual. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have clients from Florida to Idaho. We can service a client anywhere. If you want to see us, we've traveled as well to Florida, which it wasn't hard because they're a boat touring company, so that was kind of fun. But yeah, we also will do in office. We come into town a lot. We'll go south. We go where we're needed. But the big difference is that everything's gone very virtual since COVID. To be honest with you, that was a huge transformation of our business.
Tell me about your company, because I know you're not the only one, so you don't have to worry about her not being available because there's actually some staff here.
Yes. So right now we are at 10 people, and the way we work is you have a team. So you have a team leader. Right now it's one of the partners, and then that leader will be your point of contact, and then you'll have a bookkeeper and an admin, and depending on how many are on the team. On my team I have 4. So there's 4 of us. So if you can't get a hold of me, really we have you talk to the other partners. We interact with each other. Everybody makes sure we're cross-trained in case somebody gets hit by a bus. I know that sounds terrible, but we also have we use a system called ClickUp, which is all of our workflows, and we put all the notes or uniqueness of each client.
Awesome. It is very important to look at that as well.
Yes.
So you're an accountant?
I am. But I am not a CPA.
And that's what I wanted to ask.
Yes. And the reason I chose not to be a CPA, even though I worked for them for years, was because what I found when I went out on my own was that there was a niche that I had a unique skill set because I had worked for CPAs. I knew what they needed.
But when you're a CPA, there's licensing requirements. You take a test, you have to be licensed every year, and you're actually an agent of the IRS. I know, now, I love CPAs, don't get me wrong, but there are certain requirements that they have to meet and adhere to, whereas I am not licensed. I do have like bookkeeping certifications and QuickBooks certifications, but you are able to tell me things that you might not necessarily want to tell your CPA, and I can work with you on what you're talking about means, is it able, and then I can convey to your CPA in a way that you can do that. But
sort of like a representation.
Right.
There's a limit as to
Right.
what you can do as a
Right.
CPA versus an accountant.
Right, and the CPAs have more. They can represent you in front of the IRS. I cannot. There's certain things that they can do, and they're better educated and things like that, especially on tax, or audit, let's say. But none of your people are going to have that audit type of clients. They're a step above us. I will say one thing that you get comfort from having a CPA, because they're licensed, they've gone through testing. One thing you do have to be careful with, we're bookkeepers, is that anybody can call themselves a bookkeeper. And I've run into this. Bookkeepers, there's all different types and levels, depending on if you work inside of a company or outside of a company. You have to be careful. You want to make sure that they have some certifications, that they that you get referrals, that you talk to their other clients. That there's nothing out there that they've done something wrong. But mostly what you're going to find is you can get bookkeepers that don't quite know the whole scope of work that you need. And that's what you need to be careful of when you're.
That's what makes you different from the rest. You have that
Right,
experience.
right. And I mean, not to toot my own horn, but toot. I honestly have a really broad scope of experience that I find a lot of other bookkeepers don't have. And so one of the things I have fun is teaching people the why of your numbers. Why do you do things a certain way? What do you look for to make sure things are done right? It's fun.
Great. Well, thank you so much for that.
Sure.
I want to ask you, because I'm a real estate agent.
Yes.
And what can you help us as a real estate agent? What are the things that you can actually guide us? I know your experience with investors. You have that
Yes.
experience
Yes.
of having to do their bookkeeping and
Right.
so forth. How is it that you can help us as a real estate agent?
Those real estate agents, really just most real estate agents don't have sets of books because they don't think they need them. They get their stuff together at the end of the year for their taxes. One of the things that you guys that are unique is you have opportunities come in front of you to maybe buy a piece of property or for yourself. And you know what the bank wants? They want financial statements. They want to see what you're doing. What we can do is we do your financial statements for you every month. We do your sets of books on QuickBooks. That's the source we use is QuickBooks Online. You have access to it constantly. We go in, reconcile everything, code everything, make sure it's good, talk to you about what's happening. And then whenever your bank needs that, if you come into an opportunity, or let's say you want to get a small business loan, you want to get something to do marketing, because I know that's a big expense for you guys. Well, you could go get maybe a small line of credit because you have good financial statements and the banks see that you're organized. I promise you, they like that so much better. You're going to need tax returns. We help you with all of that. But also, the thing that most people don't look at is we help you understand where you're at and where your money is going. Because we're all in this to make money, right? And don't you want to know what your money's doing?
Yeah,
You do. And so we help you to understand the value of that. And we do it for you. Everything's connected. It's very easy. You can call us and ask questions at any time. If you're confused by what your CPA is telling you, we can interpret. It's like another language, right?
Just to clarify, you do not do taxes.
So right now I don't,
Mm-hmm.
but we are actually doing a joint venture with a group for the small tax returns. For real estate agents, if you're just a real estate agent, so that'd be a Schedule C, and you don't have a lot of complexity, we can take that on in-house. But for bigger returns, we like to make sure that you have the best expertise there is. And so I do deals. I have several CPAs that I work with. One I've worked with for 25 years, and I love him, and he's real estate strong.
Because there's a lot of professionals that do our taxes that are not, they don't have that experience that we need. We need guidance as to what we need to do with our money and how to report it and so forth.
Right.
Most definitely. Talk to me a little bit about the structures for tax purposes, the LLCs, the S corps. Do you help out with that as well?
Yes. So an explanation is you're either going to be a sole proprietor, which is you just get your business license and you move on with your world, and it's a Schedule C on your personal tax return. That's fine if you're just a real estate agent, because you're gonna have insurance for, through your brokerage and everything if you get sued, quite frankly. That's fine. An LLC is a formation, and it can be either taxed as a partnership. So if you form the LLC and you don't do anything, the default is it's taxed as a partnership. Or you file a form and you want to be an S corp. The advantage of an S corp, there's a couple rules around S corp, is you have to take W-2 income from your S corp. It has to be a reasonable salary, which, it totally depends on your income. But the advantage is the bottom line of your company is not subject to Social Security tax. So you save 15.3% tax off that bottom line. That's why people become S corps, because you can pay yourself a minimal salary, and then the rest of your income is not subject to a Social Security tax. And for some reason, they've never closed that loop.
That means you don't pay taxes, don't you?
You pay your federal income tax, but you don't pay that extra Social Security tax. So when you're self-employed, you pay 15.3% Social Security tax. If you're a W-2 of a company, you pay 7.65%, and then they pay 7.65%. So you're only paying half. When you're self-employed, you pay the whole thing. A partnership pays that Social Security tax, and S corp does not.
Oh. Now, this might be a little stupid question. Sorry, guys. This is for me. Does it affect us like when we get older if we're not paying any toward our social?
Well, and that's why you have to take a W-2. So you are going to pay. Yes, it will.
Okay.
And there's ways to mitigate that, right? If I'm not paying in as much Social Security tax, I should be putting that money in a 401k or an IRA, where I'm creating my own retirement fund as opposed to counting on the government to be or have Social Security. But that's your offset, right? If you go, okay, I want to be an S corp, I don't want to pay that, I'm going to pay myself a minimum. Well, you're going to take that extra money and you're going to put it in your own savings. You're going to put it in your own 401k, your own retirement account that's available for you, because you're going to be smart about it, right?
That's why I need her. See, because I'm not doing that.
That's the way you have to think about Social Security. Is that's the government's savings for you, but there's ways to have your own, right? That's the way you offset that.
Awesome. That's so much information. How can I separate my personal and business finances? I think we all have that question. It's very difficult. Bank accounts. Two separate bank accounts. And no touching the other.
And two separate bank accounts, a separate credit card. That's kind of the biggest one. People will set up a separate bank account and then they'll use one credit card for everything. Don't do that. Everybody does it, by the way. So I'm telling you, don't do it, because everybody does it. Go in, have a separate credit card that you use. Make sure that if you do pay something through your personal accounts, that you reimburse yourself out of the business account, because people miss expenses all the time because they pay for it personally and they forget. Even a meal, if you're taking a client out for a meal, anything, gas for your car, that you're out running stuff for your business, you want to make sure that you're getting the deduction for your business for that, because there's nothing sneaky about that. That's all real expenses. You think about it, to run your business. What do I do that I wouldn't do if I didn't have this business? If I'm doing that, pay for it through your business account.
Now, I know we had a conversation before regarding finances for flippers and investors. Yes. How do you help my investors? Because they're sometimes, they say they make a lot of money, and then when they sell that property, they're pissed off about it because they didn't make enough money.
Right.
Explain that.
And that's huge. I will say, flippers, be careful. One of the things that I find most is that you don't take into consideration holding costs, having to pay for that property as you're fixing it up and selling it. You don't consider that. We do a couple things for flippers. You need to get a budget from your contractor. We need that information. We can put that in QuickBooks to compare what you're actually spending to what your budget was, and point out to you, hey, look, something's going wrong. You should require your contractor to give you change orders, to do a change order, not just spend more money without letting. We also will track holding costs for you. So you can see, I actually just did this for a client of ours who's selling an apartment building, and figuring out the basis and what the monthly expenses are, so he can include all of that. And that's part of what we do. We'll help you when you go to sell it. You're looking at the market, but also look at what you spent. Have a formula. Have a formula when you purchase a property of the value of the property, the percentage you're going to put in construction, and what you want your profit to be. Because if you focus on those numbers, you might look at a property and think it's a great deal, and then have your contractor come in and it's twice as much because there's pipes that need to be replaced, or there's big things that there's a crack in the foundation. When you're looking to buy something, you need to look at those things that can really throw off your budget. But we track all the numbers for you, and we let you know if something's going astray, which it does a lot. You need to account for that. You need to add at least 20% to your construction budget because it goes terribly, terribly wrong very quickly.
That is true. So that's on the investment side. What about those investors that want to hold their properties and they're wanting to lease, and they buy 5 different homes and then now they're leasing? How do they keep track of that money?
Same thing we do. We use QuickBooks Online, and we track per house. So we'll track the rents. Well, we'll track what you paid for the house and the improvements you did on the house. So you have your basis. And then we track monthly income versus monthly expenses. One of the things I would definitely look at before you purchase a home to keep it long term is make sure what the rental market is in that neighborhood, that you're based on the cost of that house. Again, these are all formulas, and I know there's a lot of things out there that you can go look up, but making sure that your rental income is going to cover the cost of that home. And you have to think of property taxes and insurance as your 2 biggest. And then we always tell people to have a repair reserve. So not only have your operating account and your security deposit account, and keep your security deposits in a separate account, because that's not actually required in Texas, but it should be. And then have a repair reserve account so that you don't get into trouble.
For the security deposit, why? Because we're supposed to actually give it back, right? If they turn in the house just as is, or just like we turn it into them, you have to return that money back. And a lot of us think we're going to be able to keep that money, and it's not necessarily true.
Right.
Just keeping it aside so that when they do move out, have some kind of negotiation depending on what the house it looks like afterwards.
Right.
And so what was damaged, and you pull it out from there. Versus I'm going to keep all of it, and then the house is perfect, right?
Right,
and
right.
A lot of people forget that.
You forget, you mingle funds, and then it's like, what's happening here? And it also, you look at it as that's not my money. It also keeps your operating account really clean. So you're not diving into that money that's not yours yet, right? So that's something that I've seen happen. And the more houses you have, the worse that can get.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Debbie, tell us, for somebody that wants to start a business, not necessarily for real estate, what do you recommend for them to do? Do they look into an LLC first? Do they look at their money? What is it that you need for them to start off with to be able to help them accurately?
I think the biggest things would be, there's small business checklists, and I would say it depends on what type of business you're going into. A lot of service businesses, you probably don't need an LLC, but if you're going to form, you want to just have something separate. An LLC is the easiest thing to form. If you're just a single member LLC, it's actually not a separate federal tax return. It still goes on your 1040, but you do have to file a franchise tax, which they've made easier because you have to reach, I think it's $2 million now to actually have franchise taxes due. So you just have to file one form, it's a no tax due return.
That was going to be my second question. How much money do you have to make before you actually have to switch it?
There's not a threshold, but when you're starting to make more money, there's complications. And a lot of people just want to make sure their personal life is separate from their business. And there's not really a threshold to forming an LLC. It's because it's business specific. If you have a business that's an inventory type of business, or a high risk, a restaurant, I would form an LLC right away, right? Like a
coffee shop.
Yeah, a mechanic shop. There's higher risk. I would have an LLC. I would have it separate. But even a bookkeeper, like if you're just a single bookkeeper, I would keep it just a sole proprietor.
Okay.
It's complexity, right? It's liability, and then all that fun stuff.
Going back to real estate, what should real estate agents know about the quarterly tax payments?
So the first thing that you should know is to avoid penalties and interest. You always want to pay in at least the amount of last year's tax. So if you owed $5,000 last year, you want to make sure in this year you pay that $5,000 in. If your business doubled, just go ahead and pay a little bit more in. They are due quarterly. If you pay them late, there are, penalties and interest. With what we help real estate agents do is we have your books done monthly, so we can tell you this is your net income, and it's a lot more, it's a lot less, and we can help them estimate their tax based on what the income looks like right now.
So is that something necessary once you start off with the quarterly taxes? It has to continue.
It does, and yeah, you need to, and it's easier to pay now because you can just pay it through irs.gov. But you do need to pay your quarterly taxes, even if it's a smaller amount. Because I know real estate can be kind of erratic,
Right.
and we can also do averaging for you to help you figure out, well, if I keep going this way. But I always like to, because when a business is seasonal, or it's it's not like my business is pretty flat, believe it or not. We make around the same amount every month. But with somebody like that, I would take each quarter and look at it and pay my taxes based on that quarter. So if I have a terrible quarter, I'm not going to pay in as much, right? As long as you keep in mind to pay in at least what you did last year, and then keep a steady look at your books, then you can keep it pretty accurate. Because you want to pay in what you're supposed to pay in and nothing more. Because as long as you pay in the prior year, there are some exceptions, and I'm just going to say this on everything. There are some exceptions to every rule, but if you owe a little bit more tax, you can pay it April 15th. So without penalties or interest. So you want to make sure, you're doing that, but you don't want the government to keep too much of your money. Because the big thing, this is what always makes me laugh. People love getting a big refund, right? But you know what? That means the government has been using your money all year and you haven't. So you're the best.
Wow.
The best thing is to be as close to zero as possible, because that means you kept your money, and you were able to use your money, and the government didn't have it. Just saying.
Something to keep in mind. Yes, that's definitely. How do we prepare for those major life events? Getting married, having children, retirement.
So, there's a rule: pay yourself first, right? So, even if it's people paying themselves $50 a week or whatever, it's pay yourself first and have that savings account, right? That disaster account. I would say 75% of people don't, and it's because you're like, oh, I've got to pay this, I've got to pay that. But guess what? One less Starbucks, right? Have some sort of cushion, no matter, and whatever you can do. We've been talking to our younger staff about, okay, now out of every paycheck, let's put $25 into, right now, there's some savings accounts that are paying 3.5%. Is that fantastic? No, but it's better than it's been. And at least you're put it somewhere that it can't just go right back into your checking account. And you're like, oh, I need that much. No, put it away. That's my best advice, is pay yourself first. And I know it's very difficult to do, but that's my advice.
Have you ever learned anything? Yeah, there's so much today. Yes, I'm gonna go back into my financials. Maybe help you look at them.
Yeah, that would be great.
But well, thank you, Debbie. Thank you so much for all that information. We really enjoyed it.
Good.
So, Debbie, how do we get in contact with you? Tell me your phone number, your email address. Is there a website that we can go into?
Yes. So our website's very easy. It's www.amorcil.com. You can email me. It's debbie@amorcil.com. We try to keep things as simple as possible. You can call my cell phone number. I always answer. Well, okay, that's a lie. I'm in meetings a lot, but if you text me, I will answer your text. But it's 713-594-3775. On our website, we'll give you information about the packages that we offer. We also do loan packaging for investors, for SBA loans, for things like that. If you need help with any of that, because banks like stuff organized, and I promise they look less into it the more organized it is. And we have customized packages as well as the ones on our website. We do payroll, sales tax, property tax renditions, pretty much anything in the accounting world.
Is there like an approximate number? I know there's different packages, but is there an approximate number for someone that's maybe starting?
Yes, sure. Our smallest package is $225 a month. That's usually we base it on a number of transactions because that's the amount of work we put in. That includes your QuickBooks subscription. That includes having your work done monthly. You have access to it at all times. You are welcome to call us. We don't charge hourly. If you're brand new, we don't charge setup fees. And the reason is because we want you to use our services. We want you to feel free to call us. We care very much about our clients, and we want you to look at us as your back office. So that's why we've said there's pricing. It doesn't change. It only changes if you grow. And then if you don't meet any of the criteria in free packages, then we do customized packages.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. You have Debbie here helping you with your financials, and Elda, Selling Sunshine Realty, helping you with your real estate needs. Thank you so much for listening.